And we're live. Hello, everybody. Welcome, my dear puppies, to another episode of the Isle of series. What is this? Episode 8. Oh my gosh, you guys, we've been doing this for 2 months. I can't even believe it. So, episode 8. Here we go. Tonight's theme is Isle of Wild. And what we're going to be talking about is we're going to be talking about animals, wildlife, nature. Yes, I got the special hat just for the occasion. So, joining me tonight, I would like to welcome onto the stream Comic Assassin. What's up?
Hey, how's it going?
Not too bad. How about
you? You got your special hat. I got my special
yes,
mask on just for you.
Bandana so much.
Yeah, well, thank you so much for having me on. I appreciate it.
Me. Yes. Alrighty.
I love the mask.
I know the mask is so cool.
I thought you would like that. I thought you would.
Yes, I do. You understand? I'm gonna have to figure out something like that now, like a banner or something else other than the poster in the background. All right.
I hear you.
So I welcome everyone who has already joined us. I see Metarog, I see Sam, I see Thomas Wayne, I see Rob. So welcome everyone first and foremost. And all right, so Drew, your little unkept secret from everybody is that you are a wildlife researcher.
I am. That is my profession. I worked with wildlife. And yeah, that's what I do. I do it. I'm on the science side of it. So, I'm out there constantly out in the field, collecting data, analyzing, data entry, that kind of thing. So I work in academia, and I'm also doing my PhD. Hopefully I'll finish up my PhD this year. Hopefully, wow. Fingers crossed. But yeah, that's what I do. But I'm fortunate that I can do it professionally and do the PhD on the side. So
very nice. So, what made you want to get into wildlife in the first place? What was the stem? What was the inspiration?
And that's kind of a hard one. So, like anybody, you think about what you want to do when you grow up. My first friend in this world, we were friends since we were 2 years old. We were always out, looking for critters. We lived at the base of a mountain, even though you would probably laugh at what we call a mountain here compared to what you have, Rena. But, we were always out just exploring and just the curiosity. And then his family was always, bringing me out camping and hiking. And it instilled early in me the passion and the curiosity for wildlife and the wild spaces that we have. But unfortunately, high school is not easy on everybody. My best friend, actually, he passed away when we were 16.
Oh, God.
And, it made me go through a lot of self-reflection and a lot of thought about how I want to continue on and, what I'm actually going to do with my life. And, one day it just struck. I was like, hey, this is something I've always been passionate about. We only live once. Why not do something that you love? And the more I thought about it, the more I researched into it. I was like, hey, this is a possibility, but if I'm going to do it, I have to do it 110%. Because I barely graduated high school. I'll be honest with you. I barely graduated high school. And I went for it. And ever since then, giving it 110%, everything's just kind of fell in place for, what I've been doing. So.
Well, that's really cool.
It's just the passion.
So I know you said that you are more on the scientific end of it. So when you collect data and you go out into the field, what exactly does that entail? Like what exactly is it that you do when you go out and collect the information? Like what's it for?
So my field of expertise is herpetology and ornithology. So mainly I deal with reptiles, amphibians, and birds. And for the most part, what I normally do is say you have a forest or some type of land or habitat, and you come in and you do a manipulation of the habitat. So say if you do some thinning, or if you do a clear cut or prescribed fire, my job has been to come in and to look at what the response of the wildlife is. So, do reptiles, amphibians respond favorably to a certain habitat manipulation, or do birds respond favorably to a certain manipulation? And that data is used to basically help build better management practices, so we can have things like logging, but we can do it more responsibly, where wildlife isn't so negatively affected.
So, well,
that's what I've been doing mainly in the past. Now I'm doing some little different stuff, but
so a little bit different. What do you mean?
well, so nowadays I'm working on more species focused stuff. So I do alligator population surveys. So I go out there at night in a boat, and I shine for alligators in the area that I'm at. So the whooping crane is what my PhD is on, which is one of the rarest birds in the United States. Beautiful species. So I'm out there tracking there. I've been tracking these birds for 6 years. Just looking at what habitats they're using, how they're using them, that kind of thing. I do cave work, so we look at salamanders in caves and that kind of stuff. So I do a lot of different stuff. I mean, every day is a little different.
So how do you track them? Do you use like a tag, or like a because I know some researchers like have like tags on animals to track like migration and like stuff like that. Do you tag them, or do you just like count numbers?
So with the whooping cranes, we definitely have tags on them. In fact, if you in your Instagram post, the picture of the whooping crane that you put up, if you noticed on their legs there was colored bands on them.
I did,
and that's how we can tell what the individual is. But they can also glue transmitters on them, and sometimes you have to manually track them. But we can also put satellite tags on them, so we can actually track them via satellite.
Wow.
So, but I don't do none of the handling of the whooping cranes. I just do the manual on the boots on the ground type of work, and actually trying to find them.
So okay. So I got two different questions for you right now. So I know you said alligators, salamanders, and whooping cranes. Do you get to work with like subspecies, or are those just like the three main types you work with? And
I work with all different things. So when we do like the community-based stuff, we put traps out. And when I say trap, we don't mean trap to kill. We put traps that we collect in. I mean, you don't know what you're gonna get. Here I live in the Southeast. That's where I work. A very diverse area. I mean, snakes, salamanders, frogs, toads, turtles. I've actually done quite a bit of turtle work as well. We deal with it all. So yeah.
That's kind of cool. You get to like see more than just what's allotted to you. So It kind of sounds like your work day is a little bit crazy when you say that you never know what you're gonna get. So what does a typical work day look like for you?
It depends on what you're working with. Now bird work, birds are great study organisms, because not only can you see them, you can hear them, which makes them unique. So if you're wanting to actually find out what's in your environment, a lot of these animals are very hard because they can be cryptic. They can, you might not even see them. But birds, you can not only see them, but they're also, you can hear them. So you have to learn their bird calls and all that good stuff. But it's early morning work. You have to be out there before the sun even comes up. But you're usually done by 10, 11 o'clock in the morning, because that's when birds usually stop singing. So with birds, it's kind of early. Now reptiles, amphibians, it's really just depending on what you're actually doing. But yeah, there's some days you can be out there in the field for 6, 7 hours. I've been out in the field for 16, 17 hours. It all depends on what the actual study is and what needs to be done. I'm salary based, which means that, I work overtime, and I just try to make my boss happy, and,
Which is very nice of you. So, I guess with a typical work day, I guess, what are some of the trials and tribulations that come with your job? Like was it kind of like you had to jump through hoops to kind of get in? Is it kind of like a daily you have to jump through some hoops? Like what's kind of some of that?
I think some of the biggest trials and tribulations is, when I tell people what I do, their automatic response is, "Oh, that's so awesome! You work with wildlife. I've always wanted to do that." And but it's I tell people, I believe it's awesome. I enjoy it, but it's not all butterflies and bunny rabbits. We're out there in some of the thick. There's some stands that I will go into, and it might take me 30 minutes to get 30 feet because they've been cleared out, and you have nothing but honeysuckle. Not honeysuckle, but blackberries, just all sorts of nasty stuff that you have to walk through. You're trying to unstick yourself and getting stuck. It's just some unfavorable conditions. And especially when we have traps out, we have to check them every day. So it doesn't matter if it's raining, snowing, if it's 50 degrees, or if it's 110 degrees. You have to be out there. So, you deal with some of the more unpleasant things when it comes to being outdoors, the insects. It's actually fun that you asked that because I was actually watching your video in November when you were announcing this series, and I felt an itch in my belly button. And I looked, and I had a tick in my belly button.
Oh!
Wow. So, that's the kind of stuff that we have to deal with, the ticks, the mosquitoes, the bugs. It's... you have to deal with some unfavorable conditions for sure.
Ooh, ticks creep me out. No, I could not. No.
I've had a tick attached to me. It's gross.
Oh, boy. Well, I guess that kind of ties it all back around.
Yeah, I've had ticks in more places than I would like to explain. It's bad.
Okay. Well, those were the kind of more the scientific based around questions. So I'm gonna take a quick second. I'm going to let Cade jump in for his fire facts, so then we can jump into the other set real fast. So I'm going to move and pull this way.
Bring it on, Cade.
Hello. I'm Scaly. Hi. Okay, so I'm going to do Burning Blocks fire facts today. Okay, so I'm Scaly. Let's do this. Number 1, alligators lose 3,000 teeth in one lifetime. Number 2, 1 to 2 animal species are discovered a day. And number 3, humans can see color receptors, 3 color receptors. But mantis shrimp has 12. They can see 12 other receptors than we can. Yeah. Okay, I'm gonna have to ask you to get off the screen. Ow. Okay, I need to go to the hospital. Yeah.
Okay, so I do have to say, I knew he was going to use the alligator. Oh, jeez. But I did not know he was
I love it. I love it.
I'm back.
I've actually been bitten by an alligator before, so yeah.
Which leads into
It was kind of intentional. It was a baby, and I just wanted to see what it would feel like, so I kind of let it. But yeah, I've actually caught alligators before. It is not as easy as they make it look on TV. Right? It is not. Yeah.
Well, which leads into the next set that I was talking about here are actually story-based questions.
Okay.
And the first one off the list is what are some of the more life-threatening positions that you have found yourself in your line of work? A baby alligator bite might not be the most dangerous.
No, and yeah. That's actually a good one because I have been scared for my life several times. I guess just thinking about it, the one story that always pops in my mind is I worked in the Everglades, and we were doing this study. And if you've ever been to the Everglades, there's a place called Flamingo Point, which is the most southern tip of Florida, with the exception of the Keys.
Yep.
And we took like a boat ride for like an hour and a half to get to this remote area where we were going to be camping at for like 2-3 days.
Okay.
No cell phone reception, no radio contact. Basically, they dropped us off and they said, hey, if anything happens, you can paddle upstream in a kayak a few miles, and my boat may or may not be there. Right? So basically, we're left alone. We have no contact with civilization. In fact, like the whole 3 days we were there, we only saw one boat pass by. We were like remote Everglades.
Wow.
But we were doing bird work, and but it was all new territory. Me and the person I was working with had never been here. All we have is a GPS unit saying what point we need to go to. We don't have maps to show us really how to get there. And so early in the morning, we're channeling down, in a kayak down this stream, and the channel is only probably 20-30 foot wide, not big at all. And I see a bunch of thrashing in the water. And I'm like, okay. And then all of a sudden, you see the fins. So basically, it was a feeding frenzy of sharks, right? Which we later found out that was likely a feeding frenzy of like juvenile bull sharks, which caused the most bites, in the U.S. period. But we had to go past them, and you can't. The water is so brackish. I mean, you can't see them unless they break the water. So you basically you're having to go over these feeding frenzies of sharks. And not only did it happen once, it happened multiple times. And like in the last time we did it, my kayak actually got bumped by a bull shark.
Oh.
But what really, I mean, and that's scary enough. But what's scary is when you do work, we actually had to separate, and you don't know what's happening to the partner that you're working with. They don't know what's happening to you. If something happened, there's no way we can get in touch with anybody. And with her experience that, and it was kind of my fault, but I kind of knew better. There was another channel we had to go down, and this was even a smaller channel. It was like maybe 15 foot, and there's a big 10-foot plus alligator just sitting right at the mouth of that channel. And she was like, hey, why aren't you going in there? I'm like, because of that guy. Because I was afraid that if I went in that channel, that gator would go in there and there was nothing I could do about it. And she's like, okay, well, I'll go do it. And sure enough, that's what happened. Right? She went in there. When she was coming back out, she was face to face with this big gator, and it just sank on her. Right? And she paddled with her life, and nothing happened, fortunately. But if something did, I mean, we no one would have known. That's kind of what I'm talking about. Unruly simian, yeah, stepping on copperheads. Copperheads are probably one of the most abundant snakes where I deal with. So yeah, I deal with venomous snakes and non-venomous snakes as well. I've never been bitten by a venomous snake. I've been bitten by a lot of snakes, non-venomous. I've been struck at by venomous snakes quite a bit. But yeah, copperheads, they're no joke, man.
So kind of answering the chat a little bit here. Do you carry like a venom kit on you, or something in the preparation for like a venomous bite?
No, I mean, so my only experience personally with venom is we actually use these things when we catch venomous snakes. We use these things right here.
Mm-hmm.
These are called snake tubes. It's a bunch of different tubes that come in different diameters. And the theory is you get the snake to kind of go up into the tube, and then you can grab the tube, and that way you can actually work with it. You're not hurting the snake. You can collect the data that you need to do, because we do like body length, determine if it's male or female, weigh it, that kind of thing. But the one thing that did happen with venom in my case is I had a copperhead, speaking of which, that was striking the end of the tube before I could catch it. And I made the mistake of taking the tube and not wanting to get venom on my hand. I wiped it on my shirt. Well, this is July, August, in the summertime. And about 15, 20 minutes later, actually it was probably like 5 minutes, man, my stomach started burning.
Oh.
And I, lift my shirt up, and I got this big old red spot because that venom was irritating my skin. So I'm just dousing myself with water, type of thing. But generally, with most snakes, there's kind of a misconception. Most people who do end up having serious reactions when it comes to being bit by a snake, it's usually because of an allergic reaction. As long as you get to a hospital in time, you're probably good. Actually, one of my teammates, he actually did get bit by a copperhead. And it was actually funny because I was in the hospital with my wife who just gave birth to my youngest son. And he calls me. He's like, "Hey, just let you know, I'm in the hospital. I just got bit by a copperhead." And I was like, "Hey, I'm glad you're there. I'm in the hospital with my newborn son. I can't really do much for you,
Oh, wow.
So yeah.
Okay.
But it's rare. It's rare as long as you're smart and you think about it. And honestly, when you talk about the danger, wildlife is predictable. It's really the people that you have to worry about. Working with wildlife means you work in secluded places, and it's really the people that I am the most worried about. I've come across some very shady stuff. I found meth labs in areas, and I found people poaching, not just wildlife, but ginseng hunting and like all sorts of stuff. And yeah, it's the people that I really fear when it comes to being out there in these areas.
Yeah. Oh, I do want to answer JP real fast. So he says, "Assassin, I missed the beginning. Who do you work for? Florida Game and Fish? ?
No, I don't work for a Florida Fish and Game. I do work with state and federal agencies, but mainly I'm in academia. So, I work for a university. That's my profession. But with that being said, I have to work with a lot of federal and state agencies as well as private landowners.
Yeah. Man, you have seen so much. Yeah. I'm sitting here, I'm thinking all the stuff that you've run into. I'm like, oh my gosh, I was expecting like one bad happen instance and you gave us like 5. Like, dude.
Every day is different. Every day is different. I've come across wild hogs, that's you have a face down with them. And then you have some days where I've actually had the crap scared out of me by a small bird, because it'd be in a bush making a lot of noise, and you think it's something. Because like, especially when I was in the Everglades, I'd be walking down a path with no human being within miles of me, and I'm walking on a trail where I'm seeing fresh Florida panther tracks going in the same direction that I'm going. And I'm sure the panthers saw me, but I never saw them. But it's unnerving. And then you'll have like a little bird in a bush just making a bunch of racket, and your mind starts triggering like, "Oh, what's that?" And then this little bird pops out, and you're like, "Oh, you got me." You got me. But yeah, you just have to be, aware of your surroundings, and but certainly there are some stressful and challenging times.
Well, I'm going to jump across the spectrum real fast. So, going back to kind of like how you're saying, so people are like, "Oh, it's so cool." I want to focus on that for a minute. What has been, what would you think? Because you mentioned briefly that you get to go in caves and you get to look at like the little salamanders. So kind of on the subject of that, what has been some more of the more like memorable moments that you've had in your job? Not necessarily scary, but something enriching.
You're talking about the more positive stuff?
Yeah, like what's the coolest animal you've ever got to see or work with? Or
well, when it comes to salamanders, green salamanders are an awesome one to find, just because they're such a cool species, but also so cryptic. These species, they live in like rock bluffs. So whenever there's like good cracks in there, they're a state protected species in pretty much any place you go. I really love those guys. The whooping crane is a species that I have so much love to work with. I mean, the tallest bird in the United States. I mean, they're 5 foot tall.
Oh.
So this bird is something that could probably, poke you in the eye if you were close to. But they're super endangered, and we're talking about a species that back in the 1940s, we only had about 20 of them left.
Wow.
Like, this is a species that we almost lost.
Wow.
And through a lot of conservation effort and hard work, we've gotten these numbers up to about, around 800. I don't know what the latest count was, but still, it's one of the top 10 rarest birds in the United States. But they're so charismatic. I mean, they're just so fun to watch. And like I said, I've been tracking some of these same individuals for over 6 years now. And you actually get to learn their personalities, where they like to hang out, how they like to behave. And I think that's what's been really cool as of late, because, like I said earlier, I used to just do community-based stuff. Working with the whooping crane, you actually get to deal with individuals. And it's been really heartwarming. It's also going to be sad too, because sometimes you find out that a bird you've been tracking for 3-4 years, dies, and it's more heartfelt, when it happens. But just being involved in trying to be a good steward of the land and help, scientifically provide some data that will help us better manage and conserve our resources, not only for us, but for generations to come. I mean, that's what it's all about.
So, with that being said, where do you see yourself in the future, and then in the next couple years?
Well, if you ask my wife, up in y'all's neck in the woods, I don't know. I mean, like I said, I'm doing the PhD. When you do a PhD, you're kind of doomed, and I shouldn't say doomed, but you kind of forced into teaching at a university level. I mean, I already teach at a university, here and there. So really, this isn't a profession that you get into for money. It's about what you want to do, and I'm going to do what I feel is best when it comes to providing for my family, but also, how can I best, help our conservation efforts. So, I'm open to working for a state agency, a federal agency, nonprofit even, or academia. Really it's just going to come down to where I feel like my resources and my knowledge can be the most beneficial overall. But like I said, I'm also married, have kids, and, so I have to also do what's best for my family. So who knows? Who knows? My wife has said, let's move to Oregon. And I was like, I've never been to Oregon. You would take all my knowledge of these ecosystems and I'd have to relearn everything, So, yeah. The world's wide open. I've worked in China too, so that was pretty crazy,
Wow. What was that like?
Well,
it was awesome. China was unbelievable. I had such a great time. I lived there for 2 to 3 months. But I was in rural China. Like I was like where it was just small little villages type thing. But yeah, it was great time. I had a blast.
That's actually really cool. Yeah. So, are your kids as into nature as you are? Like you verse them well?
Yes and no. I mean, I try to get them exposed. They're definitely exposed. They're not afraid of holding a snake.
I am.
My daughter, it's funny, my daughter's actually been in the newspaper more times than I have, because whenever I do a lot of educational outreach, like Earth Day, that type of thing, and they always get pictures of my daughter holding the snake, and so she's really into it. The boys are really into it. In fact, this summer, it was funny because I got a call because someone had timber rattlesnakes in their backyard that they wanted removed. And so I did, try to do what I could and went and got these rattlesnakes. And so the next morning, my boys are eating breakfast with rattlesnakes in a bucket right on the table. So, they're used to that kind of thing. And, it's safe. It's safe. All right. It was a locked bucket. But,
you got to rope one of them into the family business.
Yeah. No, I mean they're also creative. I want them to do what makes them happy. I just want them to just at least respect wildlife and just be aware.
Yeah.
Big dream. If he could just dream, what would it be like?
Okay. So I guess it's final little question of the night. What would kind of be your dream? Like what would you want to foresee for like the ecosystem and kind of like in your line of work? What would your dream be to see happen?
Well, I mean, so obviously working with wildlife, it's an uphill battle, right? The human population is growing, and I've come to terms with a lot of stuff. If you would ask me 20 years ago, I was total anti-logging. I was total anti-hunting, but my mindset has changed tremendously because hunters, they provide most all the funds for conservation. Logging, if done right, actually provides better habitat for a lot more species. Not for all, and it is all a species specific type of thing, but my mindset has changed. I think what my dream would be is just for people to care. That's the real big challenge. I mean, we get these small species, like we had a bridge that needed to be repaired, and they found an endangered species of snail there, right? And people were up in arms that like, oh, who cares about the snail, blah, 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 blah. And I just think and it slowed things down. It made things more expensive. But, I think we all have to think it's not always about us, right? We all live in this world. We're all in this, we're connected together. And, we need to be leaving something behind for our future generations, and if you don't care about it, then they tend to get lost. And usually if you don't care about it, it's usually because you don't know about it. And so that's why I do a lot of educational outreach, just to say, hey, this is what we have in our environment, And so yeah, just be aware and reach out. If you feel so obliged, donate to like a land trust, or even if you don't hunt, buy a hunting license, because like I said, those hunting licenses is what pays for pretty much all the conservation in the U.S. I mean, just simple things like that. Just yeah. Like I said, I could go on and on. I really could.
You're all good. That was very well said. That was very well said. It's more about getting people to care, which is, no matter what you talk about, is something hard to do, So no, that was very well said, and I think that ends us off on a really perfect note. So thank you. All right. Well, with that, and 3 minutes over, I think we are going to close off the show. So thank you, everybody who came. And thank you so much, Drew, for coming on and talking. All of your experiences are really cool. And it was fun just being able to listen to everything you had to say and talk about all the different kinds of species and what you do. A lot of it I didn't really know. So, I mean, this was educational for me.
Well, thank you for having me on. Thank you so much for having me on. And congratulations to you, because you're, like I said, this is all about following your passion. And you publishing a book, which is on pre-order. I'm not dropping any congratulations to you in this series that y'all have been doing. Y'all have had such a great, set of guests out here. And just thank you so much for having me on. And thank you, everybody in the chat, for coming to listen to me.
Yeah, thank you, guys.
Ramble on about wildlife for 30-something minutes.
You weren't rambling at all.
Awesome.
It was so much fun.
Don't get eaten by a gator.
No. Or don't let them nibble on you. Like, bro.
Alrighty.
We'll see you
all
all.
of you.